we're going to take the next few minutes to talk about the Christmas story, but maybe in a way, a different way than you've thought about it before. To get us started, I wanted to ask you a few questions, and just before I raise your blood pressure a little bit, I want to say the whole point of starting your Christmas season off with this beautiful event is to gift women with a night of peace and friendship and some focus so that you have some quiet moments to yourselves that are all about you to kind of center yourself, because we all know what's coming for us, right? Over these next few weeks, it depends on where you are in your life space, right? It could get really busy, it could get really stressful, or it might get really lonely. And so I know everybody in this room is coming from a little bit of a different place, but tonight we're hoping the gift that we give you is a gift of focus and peace and being prepared to celebrate the Christmas season authentically and with great joy. So that's what we're going to talk about. You guys want to do that? Okay, me too. So, all right, what are some of the things that make you feel hurried and anxious here at Christmas time? I want you to turn to your neighbor and just tell them, what is the thing that makes you crazy? Okay, come back. All right. That's enough of that. Okay, shut it down. Here we go. How many of you have kids at home? Okay, how many of your children have already asked, is today the day we get to open the presents? Okay, I feel you. My daughter asked that one year on November 22nd, and I was like, oh my gosh. She is old enough now to know that we don't open them until December 25th, but it's intense, y'all. Okay, how many of you get stressed out about decorations? Okay, how many of you get stressed out about Christmas cards? Oh, yeah, okay. I think we hit a nerve. Okay, now I don't know about you, but before I had children, I guess, let me say it this way. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. Okay, anybody else in the room? Yeah? Now, some of you, let me put it this way. The most efficient way God found to correct my perfectionism was to gift me with 4 children within 4.5 years. Right? That just stomps perfectionism into dust. Every once in a while, it rears its ugly head again, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be the most perfect Christmas ever. And then my kids are like, ha, 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 ha. What were you thinking? And they throw a shoe at my head on Christmas morning. And then I'm in my bathroom eating chocolate, which is a good part of Christmas celebration at my house. So whether you find that you are still holding on to your tendency for perfectionism, or maybe you're one of those rare women that really can pull it all together and hold it all together. Are any of you here? Don't raise your hand. We don't want to know. But some of us in this room have embraced the phrase hot mess. Okay? And some of you in the room, you are like, over my dead body. Would I ever let anybody describe me as a hot mess? And that's who I was when I was 23 years old, but not anymore. But I want to show you a few illustrations. Speaking of if you're a perfectionist or if you're a hot mess, take a look at this picture. Ooh, look at that. Okay, which Christmas tree are you? Are you the laundry tree? Okay, this side, laundry tree. Just put a star on it, ladies, and move on. And you're done. Okay? Or are you, who has their tree up already? Good for you. That's amazing. # goals. Nice job. Okay, let's see. What's next? All right, let's talk about Christmas card photos for a minute. Now, here's where we get our expectations, and we look at Pinterest, and we're like, okay, honey, it's going to be so cute. You get the baby. And then this is what happens. Right? You can relate to that? Okay. This is when our expectations and the reality of our situation Do not connect, okay? So let's take a look at another one. All right, who feels like this is what happens at their house? Okay, some of you, this is you. Okay, some of us are more like this one. Okay, yeah. So if this is your house, you're a hot mess house. You are my people. You're doing great, honey. That's what I want to say. Now, our Christmas cards, every year, that process strikes terror into the heart of my husband. He actually didn't tell me how much he hated it until recently, and I'll show you the evidence of why we had to have that conversation. But these are some of my greatest hits. This one was pretty good. I liked the saw in the background, but there are 6 people in my family, y'all. 6 people, and there's only 4 here. So this one was not going to work. This was last year, and as you can see, I try to get 6 people making eye contact with the camera, and that is like, it's hard. It's really hard. So this was, that was a fail. This one, I don't know if you can tell everything that's happening here. One of my children is in between my husband's legs. Okay, and I'm gonna zoom in. Can you see my daughter's facial expression? This year, this was the best shot we got. Okay? When I said a hot mess family, 4 kids under 4.5 years, this was the best shot we got. I did not send Christmas cards out that year. I surrendered. And then a couple years back, I was looking through the shots we took at the Christmas tree farm, which that's our tradition. We go cut our tree, and then I make everybody sit there, and we try to take a picture. And I'm going through the evidence, and this is what I see on my husband's face. And I said, "Oh, Jim." And he said, "Those are my true feelings about taking Christmas card photos." And I said, "Okay, we can reconsider this tradition. Maybe that's not really serving you well." So we've moved on. We got a family picture at a wedding this year, and everybody actually looks respectable. My kids are old enough where you just say, "One and done, guys, one and done," and then they do it. And it was the Christmas miracle in October. And okay, but so my children, Thomas is my second. He is turning 14 on December the 16th. Jack turned 16 on December the 19th. And then Jesus' birthday is right after that. And so my house is one hot, boiling, bubbly mess of anticipation all of December. And Thomas is like a raging ball of energy all year anyways. That's just his personality. And so what happens in December is he has the anticipation of Christmas, and then he has the anticipation of his birthday, and this child cannot sit. Like at dinner, he doesn't sit. We took his chair away because he is so excited that he can't. It's like he levitates all of December. His toes barely touch the ground, and it makes my husband's like, "Tom, can you?" He's like, I'm just so excited, and that is how we go through December at my house. It's a lot of anticipation. No, I want you to think back to, and maybe you love Christmas and that's how you feel, and you levitate through December. But I want you to think back when you were a child and you were anticipating Christmas. Maybe there was one gift that you really wanted, and you were pretty sure somebody was going to bring it to you. And I want you to kind of remember that feeling. I want you to tell somebody at your table, what was the gift you wanted so badly and that you got? What was it? All right. Come on back. All right, so I want you to remember that feeling of anticipation, okay? So switching back to the biblical story of Jesus, Mary knew the feeling of anticipation. In fact, all God's people did, because God had promised them that he would send a rescuer. And when Mary was a little girl, her grandparents had probably leaned down and said, Mary, come here, we're going to tell you about the Redeemer that God has promised. And grandparents would have told all of their grandchildren about how good God was and how he always kept his promises, and that the best promise of all was that he would send a rescuer. And this rescuer was going to be a king, but also a warrior. He was going to be a light in the darkness, and he was going to fix everything that was wrong in the world, and he was going to save his people, Israel. And for hundreds of years, we have been waiting, they would say. But it could happen any time because God always keeps his promises. And Mary, maybe you'll see it. Maybe this will be the year when God is going to give us the Redeemer. Can you feel the anticipation that all of God's people would have had? Because they knew all the stories. They knew how God could show off. And one day that Redeemer would come, and they called him the Messiah. And in fact, there were so many things that God's prophets had said about the Messiah that the Hebrew scholars in the first century believed that one mere human could not fulfill all of the things that the Messiah would do. And so they actually thought, well, maybe there will be 4 Messiahs, because the Messiah is supposed to fulfill the priestly covenant that Israel couldn't complete, the kingly covenant that Israel broke, this promise to God, and also the prophetic covenant. The Messiah was supposed to restore all of these broken covenants between God and his people. And the scholars said, there's so many prophecies about the Messiah. There's so many things the Messiah could do. It would be humanly impossible for that to be one man. And they thought, well, maybe there will be 4 Messiahs. It didn't occur to them what the real answer was. That one human couldn't do it, of course not. But the prophet Isaiah spoke about this, and we can read his words. And Mary and her people would have been so familiar with these words. Nevertheless, wrote Isaiah, there will be no more gloom for those who are in distress. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens your people, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of the oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end, and he will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom forever and ever. Can you imagine the longing? See, you already know the story. You know how it ends. But Mary didn't know. She knew this was the promise. They were waiting. When will God show up? They would ask. When will we see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living? When will God keep his promise? Have you asked those questions of God? When will you show up like you said you would? You see, Mary and her people, they were wondering too. Are you still good? When? We don't know a ton about Mary, but scholars believe she was a teenager, and we have some teenagers here tonight. Didn't they do a great job serving your tables? Mm-hmm. And Mary was just the type of young woman who would have volunteered to serve at the ladies' holiday tea party. And who knows what she was doing at her house. She was probably around 13, 14, 15 years old. Maybe she was taking out the garbage. Maybe she was hanging the laundry. And an angel shows up. And I think we have what the angel said. Listen to this. Imagine, so you're Mary. You've been waiting. Your grandmother's been waiting. And an angel shows up, and you're trying to catch your breath, and he says, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." So she was greatly troubled at his words, so she's scared. And the angel says to her, "Don't be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end." She said, "How will this be?" And the angel answers and explains it. "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and so the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God." So Mary, she's trying to get a grip on what just happened. She's trying to recite these words over in her mind, right? To try to hold on to what did I just hear? And here's some takeaways. Okay, the angel told me I'm highly favored. God is with me. I don't have to be afraid. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to have a baby. And the angel said, God's going to give him a throne. His kingdom will never end. And he'll be the Son of God. Like, it's happening. And I'm part of it. And her little 15-year-old Mary, she's having all kinds of feelings. What would you be feeling as a 15-year-old? Can you put yourself in her shoes? Back table, our teenagers in the room. Think about that. 15 years old. So we know that Mary was excited and honored because in Luke chapter 1, verses 46, she writes a song in which she is rejoicing. And some of the things she says is, "God has done great things for me. I'm the most fortunate woman on earth." And God is doing exactly what he promised, right? So we know, so she's excited and she's rejoicing. But what about Mary's other feelings and other responses? Because Mary actually had other plans in place already. She was engaged to be married to a man that her parents had chosen for her. A surprise pregnancy in her culture in the first century not only would ruin her reputation, it would also ruin the reputation of her entire extended family and jeopardize all of their business dealings. She would have brought shame upon everyone that she cared about. And her marriage, Joseph would be justified to never speak to her again, and she would not ever be wanted by another man. So that's a lot to face as a 15-year-old. That's a mixed bag of emotions. God's good plan for her, on one hand, intersecting with the plans she had for her life, God's plan was actually going to ruin a lot of the things she had planned. Have you been there where God's unexpected plan ruined something for you? It's complicated. Thank you. But you know the story. God works things out with Joseph, explains in a dream, and Joseph believes Mary, and he stays with her. And she probably had big plans to gather all the women in her family that would surround her for the birth of this baby. And then something else unexpected happens, and the Roman emperor declares a census, and by law, Joseph had to take Mary and travel to Bethlehem from Galilee, while Mary was not just a few months pregnant, but very pregnant, like 9.5 months pregnant. Not really, but that's how it always feels when you're 9 months pregnant. You're like, I'm 10 months pregnant. And that's how she felt. And do you know how many miles it is from Galilee to Bethlehem? It's 85 miles. In the first century, that is a 5-day journey, a minimum of 5 days. Dusty road, you're either walking, you're riding on a donkey. I don't know that Mary would have wanted to be in a cart because that would have just been super bumpy to ride in a wagon. But those of you who've carried a baby, you know your body by that time is like, everything hurts anyways. Can you imagine being on a donkey for 5 days? So physically, Mary is probably hurting. But I want you to think about the 5 days on the road for Mary. What was she thinking about? She had plenty of time to think. 5 days. I think she was running through it all in her head. Okay, the angel said, I don't have to be afraid. I'm highly favored, and God is with me. He said, God's going to give this baby a throne. His kingdom will never end. It's the Son of God. We're going to the city of David. Joseph, I think all the good things are about to start when we get to Bethlehem. What if the local ruler greets us and brings us into the palace and gives us a room? Maybe everything is going to just be wonderful. And the anticipation of meeting her new son, of what would this baby even look like, being the Son of God, all that anticipation. Do you think Mary was levitating a little bit? And so how did it go when they got there? And the first hotel had no rooms. It's okay, Joseph, God's got this. Try the next one. And that one's a no. That's okay. And how many times? What about that B&B, the Airbnb? What about have you checked VRBO? Like, come on, there's got to be something. And then no room had been saved for them. Think about Mary's 15-year-old heart. How does it feel? How would you have felt? When the anticipation and the expectation of what it should be doesn't match up with the reality of your situation. Those things don't connect. What do you do with that? Have you been there? So who has a nativity set at home? Is it beautiful? Yeah. We have one, and it's lovely, and my kids love to play with it, and sometimes there's a backhoe next to baby Jesus, and it's awesome. But here's the truth about the stable. It wasn't beautiful. We forget that part. But it was a real working stable. And if Bethlehem was so overcrowded that there was no extra bed for a pregnant woman, that means that stable was overcrowded. And let's just talk about the realities of an overcrowded stable, right? Too many animals. That's noisy, right? There's extra oxen, extra horses, extra donkeys. There's extra poop, a lot of it. The stable hands are probably so busy tending to the extra people in Bethlehem that they're not cleaning the stable. It probably smells terrible. So I don't know if it was really popular back in Mary's day for her to write like a 3-page birth plan that included scented candles and like that cool lotion that my mom makes, and can you rub it on my hands when I'm having contractions, because that'll help me. But I'm pretty sure that giving birth in a stable was not on Mary's list of possibilities. And so when Joseph rolled her up in front of the stable, how do you think that went? Like Mary's stomach, do you think it just dropped out from under her? Oh, God, I thought you said you were with me. You want me to give birth to your son and with the cows and the sheep and Joseph, it smells. See, I wonder if Mary was asking questions like, God, did I misunderstand? Have you abandoned me? Have you forgotten me? Because the stable for Mary, while we don't know exactly what she was thinking, I'm pretty sure we can guarantee that it was unexpected, unwelcome, and unwanted. It was not peaceful. It was not beautiful. In fact, it was a huge mess. And Mary's heart was probably a huge mess at that point as well. On one hand, God is good. He keeps his promises. And on the other hand, the reality of her situation. And so I want to ask you at this Christmas season, if God has ever taken you somewhere that was unexpected, unwanted, or unwelcome. Now God, he gets to do whatever he wants. And he is a masterful storyteller, and he has intentionally chosen every detail of history to reveal truth about himself to us. And so his choice of birthplace is no accident. So we have to ask this question: what does it mean about our God that he chose to be born in a stable? Our God chose to arrive not in a temple or a palace, but in an overcrowded, smelly stable. What does God want us to know about who he is? Let me see if I can pull up Isaiah 9 one more time. Look at these 4 names of God here at the bottom of the verse. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now, where would you have chosen to be to make your debut on earth if those things were true about you? Right? Not a stable, I'm guessing. But the Prince of Peace chose to be born into a hot mess because you and I are a hot mess, and we desperately need a Prince of Peace. Jesus arrives intentionally into the least likely of places so there will be no mistake. 1, no mess is too messy that Jesus would not be willing to stand right in the middle of it. And number 2, when Jesus shows up, he transforms everything. You see, Jesus is enough to calm the storm. He's the only thing it takes to transform ashes into beauty, to make old things new, to bring dead things back to life. Jesus is enough all by himself to make a stinky stable a sacred sanctuary. He transforms the unwelcome into the unexpectedly beautiful. He will take your hot mess and mine and turn it into a holy moment because he is here in the middle of the mess with us. And the stable is proof that he is not afraid of your mess, and he doesn't need you to clean it up and make it perfect in order to create just a place that's just right for him. He doesn't want to wait for that. He, in fact, came to be right in the middle of it with us. And Matthew wrote about this in chapter 1. He referred back to Isaiah, who said that Jesus' name would be Emmanuel, which means God with us. It's his very name that he gave himself so that we can't miss it. So you know why we look at our nativity sets and we call them beautiful? For no other reason than the fact that Jesus is right in the middle of it. Jesus transforms it into something so lovely that we put it right in the center of our coffee table. And there's nothing else about it that would have ever located it there for us. Ephesians 2:14 says that Jesus himself is our peace. And so our answer to how do we have peace in the middle of our unwanted, unexpected, or unwelcome is we just invite Jesus right into the middle of it with us. That's where he wants to be. That's who he is. You see, I think when Mary looked back years later at the unexpected, unwelcome, and unwanted walk to the stable, my guess is that she remembered that it was a beautiful place because that is where she met Jesus. And that's what he does. And I wonder if the stable experience prepared Mary for the cross. I wonder if 33 years later, when the expectations and anticipation of what Jesus' ministry would be like, what his mission really was, what his purpose was, when that collided with the reality of the situation, of his conviction, of his crucifixion, I wonder if Mary said, hold on. You know, when Jesus is in the middle of something, you never know what's going to happen. And I wonder if that knowledge had given Mary hope despite the tomb. And I wonder if we can learn the same lesson. If knowing that Jesus is with us right in the midst can help us when we face impossible, unwanted brokenness. If it can hold us up against despair and give us hope when all hope seems lost. And here's one more thought for you. The mess, the unwanted part, it didn't change the fact that Mary was smack in the center of God's perfect will for her life. I find sometimes I believe, oh no, everything's not lining up, so I must have missed it somehow. Because if this was God's plan, then everything would just fall into place. Ladies, that's not how it always works. And so remember Mary at the stable, if she was saying, God, have you forgotten me? God, this is such a mess. Have you abandoned me? No, God was right with her, doing his very best work, as he would at the cross 33 years later, when it looked like God had left the building for good. So if you're sitting in the middle of an impossible mess, no, God has not left you. No, he has not forgotten you. No, he could never, ever, ever stop loving you. So what do we do? When the reality of our situation fails to meet our expectations, we invite Jesus in. We look for Jesus. He promises to be there. Your job is not to miss him. Your job is to welcome him with wide-eyed wonder and joy. He arrives as a gift, your Prince of Peace. He is here with all of us, ready to transform the hottest of messes into a holy moment. And you can stop striving, stop trying, and just rest in his love for you. So as we enter into what may be a busy or a lonely or a stressful Christmas season, I want you not to try to craft the perfect Christmas, but instead embrace the most perfect present, the presence of the Prince of Peace. Perhaps the best gift you can give others is for you to draw near to Jesus yourself and ask him to transform you. Maybe Jesus wants you to learn to rest in his love this Christmas, or to learn how to enter the mess of others and to love on them, or just to know his peace in the midst of your unexpected. So what makes the stable beautiful? Jesus, the rescuer long anticipated, come at last, unexpectedly, but powerful enough to transform. I'm going to invite Danny on stage. Right now, she's going to give us some music because I want to gift you with 2 minutes of quiet right now. I don't know when was the last moment you had 2 minutes of quiet, and I don't know when you'll get it again, but we will give it to you right now because I want you to have a chance to ask Jesus to be your Prince of Peace. I'd like for you to invite him to be near you this Christmas season every day. And I'd like for you to offer him up those things in your life that are unwanted, unwelcome, or unexpected that are really rocking your world right now. Because he says he wants to carry your burdens. He wants to be with you wherever you go. It's his promise, and he's a God who keeps his promises. So I'm going to stop talking, and you can silently, right where you are, just bow your head. words of Jesus from John. He says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, and do not be afraid." And Jesus, we welcome you into every part of our lives and ask that you would help us to walk aware of your presence with us, relying on you to be our peace. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for the way that you love us extravagantly. In your name, amen. So I'd like to close by giving you a few practical steps to take. I want you to get into the practice of inviting Jesus into your hot mess when you encounter it. If you haven't already at your house gotten out a nativity set, I would like for you to do that when you go home this weekend and set it out where you can see it so that it will be a reminder to you of how Jesus in the center transforms things, stables, lives, hearts, into beautiful works of his grace. The other thing that I think will help you remember is a gift that our team has arranged to give you tonight that you can take with you, put it somewhere where you can see it, and it will also remind you of this truth that we've talked about tonight. Finally, you have a bookmark on your table, and it is full of resources. You can go online if you'd like to find out more. It's also got dates for upcoming women's ministry events. And one of the things I'd like to highlight is the Discover Jesus class that begins in January. If this is your first taste of how awesome Jesus is, then you belong in the Discover Jesus class because you'll get to find out all the other amazing things about him and about what it means to be a Jesus follower. So I hope that you'll attend in January, but there's no reason to wait until January to find out more. Tonight, we only talked about the arrival story. There's so much more to the Christmas story, and every Sunday here at Burke Community Church, we'll be talking about it. So I'd like to invite you to come back and join us for that. And we have Christmas Eve services, and all of that information is on that bookmark. Right now, what we're going to do is close our time with a beautiful song sung by Monica and Danny, and then we're going to be able to sing a Christmas carol together before we finish just enjoying each other's company and also return to the shopping area for the evening. So what I'd like you to do is use this time, this song, to reflect on what God wants you to take home with you as you leave tonight. Thank you for letting me spend time with you. You guys are the best. Thanks.